Welcome to another episode of Growth Hacker TV. I'm Bronson Taylor, and today I have Ryan O'Donnell with us. Ryan, thanks for coming on the program.
Thanks, Bronson. Really happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Ryan, you are the founder of sellhack.com, and with a name like that, it has to be super interesting. Sellhack.com, and that's SELL hack.com. And I actually love this tool. I think it's a really clever tool you've built, and I think a lot of the people watching this will end up in your world somehow when they realize what you can do for them and how much value you can bring to their email and to their sales and all those kind of things. But I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. All right, so first, tell us what is SellHack?
SellHack is a tool that helps people find anyone's email address. So we built a browser extension. We've got a web application. You give us a first name, a last name, and a company for a person, we'll return you a valid email address.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like you said, it's an extension, so it lives right there kind of in the browser.
Exactly. We got started with this. I've been doing sales for a while. I've been running a couple different startups. Wasted a lot of time. Wasted a lot of time selling to other companies, trying to find email addresses. Putting them in an Excel worksheet and then sending BCC bombs to people and managing all the bounce back emails that came in. So we wanted to build something that was just right in front of our end user while they're either prospecting on Twitter or on Facebook or on LinkedIn, for example, so that when they find someone they want, they can get an email address and shoot an email off to that prospect right away.
Yeah. So the old process would be you find somebody online that you want to reach out to. They don't have a public email, so you have to dig around. You're doing searches for them. You're trying to find if they posted it in some random place online. You're just spending minutes, if not longer, digging around trying to find an email address, right?
Right. TikTok. The clock's running. You're wasting time. The beauty about email, compared to really any other channel, is that look in the offline world. If you're selling, knives or coupons door to door, candy bars as a kid, you can't knock on as many doors as I can send emails. You can't make as many cold calls as I can send emails. So we have this super efficient communication medium, and in the past there just wasn't an efficient way to find email addresses, so you could be super efficient with it. So that was really the genesis of why we started this.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, if I remember correctly, you actually ran into a little bit of trouble with LinkedIn, and maybe trouble's the wrong word, but you got on their radar somehow.
Yep.
Tell me about that a little bit. It's always interesting when somebody bumps into the big dogs and they don't like it.
Yeah, one part of me says, the advice I would give to other entrepreneurs starting off with a new business is do something that might agitate a more established player out there in the space, get their attention, but go only as far as you feel comfortable so that you won't be sued, is one way of looking at it.
That's good advice.
We didn't take that approach, so hindsight 2020. SellHack was built for my last startup because I was selling, companies called Sociogram. We had a video platform. We were selling to online retailers primarily. So I would be scouring the web and LinkedIn, looking for VPs of marketing, looking for e-commerce directors, so on and so forth. I'd build my prospect list. Then I'd have to go out if I couldn't find an introduction and actually, cold email the person. So my business partner, we were reviewing our sales process, just in hindsight for the past year. We like to get retrospective before we start planning, the future. And one bottleneck that I had, that I listed was I waste so much time either trying to use Reportive or an offline trying to search for their email address, that it just wasn't efficient. So he actually built and prototyped the first version of SellHack. That was back in probably first quarter of 2014. We shared it with a few friends. So before LinkedIn, there was maybe had 20, 50 people using it, and they were a few friends who we just wanted to help out. A Yahoo tech blogger picked us up from Product Hunt actually, and did the piece. Contacted LinkedIn. LinkedIn took offense to what we were doing. We didn't build it to be offensive. We didn't know what we were doing was wrong, and it was free. And, before we knew it, we had 15,000 people signing up for it in the course of like 24 hours. And, they sent us a cease and desist. We complied with that within 24 hours. And then we said, wow, there might actually be something here. So we spent the next week or so making it compliant, and then we introduced a pricing model. We just had too much demand to continue to give it away for free. So that was our I guess call it accidental launch.
Yeah, almost an accidental hack in a way,
Sure, exactly.
It has all the right ingredients. You got somebody mad at you, you got a cease and desist, you got some buzz because now it's the tool that you're not supposed to have access to.
Right.
You got to see how much people liked it by the initial sign up, so you knew there was kind of something there to kind of push you forward with it. It's kind of a perfect storm for a founder just to move to the next level and really make a company of this thing. So I love that story. That's awesome. But it actually works with more than LinkedIn though, right? Because like you said, all you got to do is type in their first name, their last name, and their company domain, and your software kind of does the magic of spitting back the email address.
Exactly. And I'll throw out there, I love LinkedIn. I use it every day. It's a great service. I think as a salesperson and marketer and growth person, LinkedIn is just it's a stalwart. It's an invaluable resource, right? So we never meant to do anything so egregious as to get shut off or have legal action taken against us. But we built a tool that solved a problem for us. And created, efficiencies that, other folks shared as well. And I think that was really a big catalyst, at least, I wouldn't call it early success, but at least an indication that, hey, what we're working on is a problem that some folks have. Now, we call it Cell Hack. You'd be surprised that a good percentage of our customers are actually recruiters. So it's not recruiter hack. In the beginning, we were so tied into LinkedIn that it was just a LinkedIn tool, very myopic vision of what it was going to be. Now it works in any site. We're not tied to any site in particular. So we've got folks who are searching, like I said earlier, we prospect everywhere. I prospect on Facebook. I use Facebook search to look for people who work at XYZ company who live in whatever and have the title VP. Twitter, GitHub, it does not matter where your prospects are. We find valid business email addresses.
No, that's awesome. All right, so let's talk about kind of cold emailing in general, right? So now you've built a tool that gets us the email address, which is half the battle, and it used to be a very inefficient half of the battle.
Right.
But now you've kind of made that with less friction. So now let's talk about cold email itself. Does cold email actually work? You have this email address.
Yes.
They don't know you. You email them. It works.
Cold emails work.
Well, walk me through that. How does cold email work? They don't
Sure
know who I am, and yet they're going to do something I want them to?
So the goal of any cold email is to get a response. Right. I'm not trying, when I send a cold email, I'm not trying to get someone to pull their credit card out and make a purchase. Canned spam is something that we're very cognizant of. And we make sure that we comply with, both as, providers of email addresses, but also as a company who sends a fair amount of cold email out. Cold email just flat out scales like no other communication medium does. I was a stockbroker for a year when I first moved to New York. We were actually opening an account on banks. We were selling, we were making hundreds of calls a day, connecting with 50 people, getting 5 leads, and then trying to close 1 account. Right. So, folks have been cold calling for years. You pick the phone up and you try to get someone to buy stock from you while you're there on the phone. We're not proposing that you try to sell them anything. We just want to get a response. We want someone to either say, don't contact me again, which is great because now I won't have to waste my time there. Or we want them to say, yeah, this is a problem I have. And, either talk to me or here's someone else on my team that you should speak with. And I can send out 100 or 1,000 emails, 10 or 100 times faster than I can make those same 100 or 1,000 phone calls.
Yeah. No, I love what you said. It just scales better than anything else. When does cold email work the best? When you're doing some biz dev stuff, when you're trying to eventually get to a sale, something else. What is kind of the sweet spot for the use cases here for cold email, in your opinion?
Yep. A couple use cases that our customers have. We've got recruiters who use it to find email addresses for candidates that they want to put in front of their companies, or their clients. We have sales and biz dev professionals who whether it's a sales development rep or a business development rep, which is really been starting to that position's really started to get to scale within a traditional sales organization where they're actually doing the prospecting and then handing a lead over to a closer, someone who's actually going to demo and close. We've got folks who are looking for jobs and trying to contact a hiring manager. I use it personally. I have a goal of every week. I have a list of influencers that I keep. Every week, I reach out to at least one influencer on that list, and I try to engage in some conversation, right? So I use it personally for that. I use it. We use it for our own sales. Email is just, if you're not sleazy about it and you're very upfront with the offer you're bringing to the table, which is just, here's other people like you who have a problem. Here's a solution that we provide. Here's what we've done for folks like you or for your competitors. Who's the best person in the organization for me to speak with, right? I practice FARD, the acronym FARD, F-A-R-D.
All right, break that down for us.
Right. Forward, archive, reply, forward, archive, reply, delete, right? So it's basically any email that comes in, and I was trained at this back at Yahoo, not formally trained by them, but we got so many emails coming in, and when you have a more hierarchical organization, you want to get the emails off of your plate, right? And typically when you're sending an email out to an executive, they are going to, if your ask is too much, if you're trying to get an executive to commit to a 30-minute meeting or, an hour-long coffee or something like that, that's a big ask to come out with right away. But if you're just asking them, you're giving them permission to get an email off of their plate by saying, if you're not the best person, who your best person is, and they can do what a good executive does, and that's delegate really well, so they can get back to doing what they do. You give them permission to delegate, and there's nothing more powerful to get to a decision maker than getting a referral from their boss or their boss's boss and going in and saying, Jim or Jane, suggested that I reach out to you to talk about this. How does your calendar look next week?
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's great.
It's just it opens so many doors.
Well, yeah, just knowing from the inside how they're viewing their email allows you to craft it in a way that it gives them permission to do what they want to do anyway, and then you get that intro at the same time. So that's the forward. What's the archive and reply delete? What's the idea there?
Right. So it's just those are the primary actions we take with any email, right? And it's interesting. 92% of emails sent have a response within the first day. If they don't get a response within the first day, if there's not a response, it's probably not going to be opened, replied, deleted, forwarded, or anything like that.
Gotcha.
So when you're constructing your cold email campaigns, it's really, really important to have that series of emails, which is going to continue to reach out to that person, without being, it's a borderline of being persistent and being, pesky or just being annoying, yeah. Basically. But it's really, really important to have in place that system if you don't get a reply that's going to continue to try to engage with that person. And again, keep your ask, manageable.
Yeah.
So that's, we're big believers in that. And I think I'll dovetail that point into saying, I'm not painting broad strokes here saying this is going to work for everyone. Mm-hmm. We find the biggest success happens for a B2B company, someone who's selling a product or a service to another company. Okay. Who can use it. If you have a consumer app, cold email out to a bunch of people, like that could technically be spam. Mm-hmm. If you're selling, sub sandwiches or if you have an ice cream shop, put someone out on a street corner or buy some ads, right? Mm-hmm. It's just like cold email is best for B2B, and the sweet spot has been, software as a service.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great advice right there. The first email you send, Should it be really short and just get them to give you the response or something easy? Or do you want to give them more information and let them make an informed decision? What does that first email look like with cold email? Because it is cold. It's not like a friend. You don't know them. You don't have history. You don't have a communication style with them already. What's a safe place? What do you do for that first email?
Right. So before you even get to that first email, there's a couple steps before that are really important to sort out. First you got to figure out who your personas are, right? Mm-hmm. Who are the people who actually are going to be either the decision maker's boss, mm-hmm. or your end user, your primary customer. So going through this persona exercise of figuring out who these people are is incredibly important. Once you go through that exercise, actually segmenting that out even more is even more critical. So when we're prospecting and building our own lists internally, I'll give an anecdote. This fall, right? I was doing a campaign for us, and I was specifically looking for prospects who went to colleges in the SEC, okay. Right? And I took one step further and I filtered those folks into different schools. Then in my mail merge, I had a custom variable field that I put something in, so if they went to Clemson or if they went to Alabama,
go Tigers, go whatever.
Yeah, my first note in there, and we like to think about we want to make an email that can be digested, no pun intended, while someone's sitting on the toilet in the morning, right? Yeah. Like something that simple. As they're going through their emails, what's the subject line that's going to get them to open, which is incredibly important. And then what's that first hook, right? So we might have a subject line like quick question, or what a game. And my first sentence might be, how about that, how about that Hail Mary at the end of the game?
That's a great email right there.
Tigers look great. And then kind of go into my pitch, and my pitch is not like, here's the stuff, come and buy it. It's, we've been working with companies like X, Y, or Z, to help them, increase their time to close or their prospecting rate. Mm-hmm. And the X, Y, and Z companies, those are ideally competitors of theirs that we actually work with. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot that goes into the construction of an email, but really starting off and really, getting deep into what the personas are and who these people actually are, so you can send a highly targeted, highly personable email. Gotcha. It is the first place to start. And
then it really helps inform what the email needs to look like, because every persona is different. And right. Some personas need less information, some need more. It's really going to inform the whole entire process if you know who it is you're trying to reach.
Exactly, and you want to make that email so easily digestible. Couple things: no pictures. Images get. It's interesting. A lot of folks don't understand how email systems actually work. Right? Mm-hmm. First, before you could have the best crafted email possible, but if you're not even getting through to the inbox, it's a waste. Mm-hmm. Right? So a lot of things go into play before you even actually send your email. You need to have your DKIM, and SPF records together. Right.
So break that down. What does that mean?
Yeah. So Gmail fortunately automates parts of this, but it's basically a verification that a mail server uses, so that it verifies that you are the person you claim you are, sending an email on behalf of the company domain that you claim to be from. Yeah. Right. So it's just one of those things that a spam filter checks for. Spam filters check for images and stuff in the stuff in the headers. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to throw MailChimp under the bus because I think they're awesome, but one of the challenges a lot of startups have is they use, and not just startups, but companies who might not require more expensive plans with some of these mail providers. Mm-hmm. MailChimp puts at the bottom of all their emails on their free plan, a little image of MailChimp and a link, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not white labeled for you. It still has their marketing in it. Yeah. The problem with that is that information goes into the headers of the email, right? Mm-hmm. As soon as you start having information in the headers of the email, that's another spam check, right? And all these different things have a point system associated to them. And all the ISPs and all the mail servers are different, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as you cross the threshold of having a certain number of points tied to a specific email, not saying the person's first name will get a point value assigned to your email. So it's really important to use a mail merge that says, "Hi Bronson," and then kind of go into it. If you don't follow the deliverability rules, the best email message won't even get read, right?
Yeah.
So it's important to kind of as you're starting to build your foundation, it's figuring out, is this message going to actually get through? I like plain text messages. There's 3 sentences is kind of a movement out there, as is 4 sentences and 5 sentences. There's actually a website, but you can put it in the footer of your email, and it's basically a pledge. Like, I'm committing to only write 3 sentences because I know we all get too many emails as it is, and I want to make it really easy for you. But there's a lot of different things that go into it, but I think making sure that you know what goes into getting your email delivered is table stakes before you start to worry about, what's my message and how many people is this getting to.
Yeah, no, that's great advice right there. I hope everybody's listening as you go into that, because that's awesome. When I think about SellHack, it seems like such a guerrilla tool. It just seems like when you find it, you're like, wow, stuff like this really does exist in the world. And yet most business people don't know about these kind of tools, don't talk about these kind of tools. Is there any other tools that kind of fit in that category? And I'm asking you just because, you're the founder of this guerrilla tool. Is there any other tool out there where it's like, man, if people knew this existed, they'd love it?
Yeah, so I think I looked at this yesterday when I was doing a talk locally for some aspiring entrepreneurs about sales last night. And I actually took them through, I try to be as organized as possible. So I took them through, I've got a big Google spreadsheet built out. I've got one for sales, one for growth, one for content. And that's just kind of where I manage all the madness at. One of my tabs there are tools, right? And it's tools that we actually use, or it's stuff that I stumble across. There's well over 150 tools that I have in there that, you can't use 150 tools at scale and try to do things effectively. But I have not found a use case where there hasn't been a tool for it. The biggest challenge is trying to remember the right tool at the right time. A couple that we use. Yesware is a tool that we use all the time. I love sending emails through Yesware. Google Google Apps for Business is what we use as our mail server. There's a Gmail script called the No Reply script that you can download from GitHub. We can link people to this afterwards in the comments or whatever. But it basically any email that you send that does not get a reply. This is not cold emails. Let's just say an email that you send to someone you've interacted with that doesn't get a reply. After 7 days, the script will automatically put that email into a no reply folder and keep it there for 2 weeks. So every Friday from 2 to 3 o'clock, and if you get an email from me on Friday at 2 to 3 o'clock and we haven't talked in a while, this is why. I follow up with those emails, right? I never send naked emails, which means I never send weak checking in emails. Don't do it. That's like the worst thing ever. Add value when you send an email. Like, have a cache of relevant industry information and stuff that you can include in the email to try to engender a response. Otherwise, you're making the email about you, saying just checking in to see how things are going. It's been a while since we talked. How's your calendar look next week? That's about me, right? So email should be about the person you're sending one to. What else? Yet another mail merge for Gmail. We use that. I just started. My eyes are going to wander here for a second. I just started using. I just started using WriteTag for.
What's that do?
WriteTag for Twitter is basically when you're composing your tweets and you start to use your hashtags, it'll give you a green, yellow, or red in terms of what's the total reach you can have based on what hashtag you use.
That's awesome.
And
I like that.
We're always looking at tools out there that exist, and if they don't exist, we build them for ourselves. Like, we just built a tool. So every sign up that we get, we built a tool that basically automatically researches that person who signs up, right? So I'm trying to get their demographic, I want to know who they are, male, female, age, title, company. Do they tweet? Are they on Facebook? What's their LinkedIn? So we can have a better view to say, okay, this person fits into this area. Here's how I'm going to contact them or approach them or whatever. So we're big dog fooders here. Anything we need, if there's not something out there, we build it on Friday afternoons. We start using it. If it works, then what you'll see, coming out from us over the next few months, we've got a bunch of these little productivity tools that all kind of hang together. That's going to help people, do what we do a lot better.
So SellHack's becoming kind of a little suite of products, not just a tool now.
You have to be. I think as you similar to what you guys are doing with Growth Geeks, right? You look at some of the stuff. Growth Hacker TV has a great audience. It's a community of people. What you probably noticed in there is that people are talking about working together in comments. So why not create a platform that's going to help bridge the gap between people who offer services and people who need stuff, right? And it's a natural extension. And if you don't do it, someone else will.
Absolutely. The next play is obvious when you're in the middle of something. The same way you guys are in the middle of SellHack. The next play is obvious because you know what tool also needs to be a part of this suite. Right. So business has a way of making sense as long as you keep momentum and you keep going and you keep learning and you keep talking to people. The next move is usually right there in front of you.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that's probably the biggest challenge that most companies have, and I've been there, I've lived it, and that's if you don't get your product right from the beginning, and it doesn't need to be feature heavy and do everything. Just do one thing right and add value for some folks, and grow from there. I've done it personally, and I see too many companies. You can't apply growth marketing or growth hacking or create a growth strategy for a product that just is dead on arrival. You can get some artificial lift, but it's going to fizzle out because there's going to be someone else who's going to come around and do it just better, or you're solving a problem that no one has.
Yeah. The way I like to think about it is growth hacking doesn't live in the features. Growth hacking is very much tied to the center, the core, the essence, the main pain you're solving. Then you can apply growth to that. But growth hacking will never live in the features because, like you said, you can get some artificial lift, but it's not going to be long term. It's not going to be enough for you to get excited about it in 5 years. You need some core product that is actually meaningful to then really apply these growth principles. Now, let me ask you this: as you've grown SellHack, what's been the best strategy that you've used to grow it? And it might be cold email or it might be something else. I mean, that's the fun thing about these tools is sometimes people have a tool to do one thing, but they actually grow it a different way, and that it makes total sense. But what's been your case? How have you guys actually grown this thing?
Right. So the first thing that we did after taking a deep breath when, the whole LinkedIn kind of kerfuffle happened back in April was, we built the first growth tactic we ever did was we put a pricing plan in place. We kept a free model and we put a pricing plan in place, and we and we made it such that folks, we made it easy for someone to come on and get a free account and realize the value before actually coming in and investing and actually giving us their money. We tend to think about, we are our own customer, right? If I wasn't building this product, I would be paying for it, right? So we're fortunate that we built something that we dog food and use ourselves, and oftentimes hold ourselves against the check of would I do this or would I not do this, right? And that's one of our gut checks for doing things. Bounce Exchange has been an awesome tool for us. Bounce Exchange has been great. Captures exit intent, but we've also been using Bounce Exchange tied to certain account tiers, activity that they're taking on the site, and then getting in front of them, whether it's early access to some new stuff that we're building, or it's a team or enterprise plan, for example. Bounce Exchange has been a great tool for us for growth.
And let's break that down for people in case they don't know. Bounce Exchange is, Exit Intent's another one, the company that does the same thing. Basically, your mouse is moving toward closing out the tab. It recognizes your mouse is about to close out the tab, and it gives you a new pop-up a new something. You get their attention on the page somehow and kind of bring them back into the loop. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's how Bounce Exchange started, and uh, you know, one of the smartest guys I've ever come across when it comes to growth in that. So Bounce Exchange is basically they're maturing into a way that's not just exit intent anymore. They're actually starting to capture actions that take place on the site. So it's not just capturing someone who's going to go and leave the site. They're actually if someone has successfully found 10 emails on SellHack, then we've got a campaign that goes to that person. They're not necessarily leaving; they're actually taking actions. We define those rules and take care of it that way.
I like that. That's really cool. Yeah, that's a good program to look into is Bounce Exchange. Then,
Right.
all right. So let me ask you this: what are you working on today on SellHack when this interview's over? And this is just kind of a fun question I've been asking lately because it gives us like what's on your to-do list next, even if it's really boring or really exciting. But what are you working on right after this interview?
Gotcha. I have 3 demos that we're going to give. We're launching over the next. By the time this airs, we will have launched SellHack version 2, which is essentially. So we started as a great email verification service. We help people find emails through a heck of a lot of customer development, which has also been a pretty effective growth tactic for us. So anyone who signs up for SellHack, for a paid account gets a personal email from me, and I try to engage in some capacity. So we've learned a lot about what people are looking for. So what we've built outside of just finding email addresses, we built a way for people to actually build their prospect list, right? So you can do your prospect research, whether it's the same stuff you're doing on LinkedIn or Twitter or anywhere else. We help people build prospect lists. We automatically append the contact information to that. And then we've created a way to export that into Salesforce or download it into a CSV, for example. So we just started ramping people onto that, using cold emails to set up demos and close new customers on that. So that's number one focus. Our next kind of growth, tactic's a tough word to use, but I'm just going to use it anyways. We haven't had a referral plan in place. We'll be launching a referral plan here over the next day or two, and that's really what we're focused on this week. We tend to work in week-long development sprints. Yeah, and we keep. I personally and my partner, who's the developer extraordinaire on this, the main one is we like to finish things, and we look at week increments as kind of good. There's obviously bigger projects, but we like bite-sized chunks. We reserve Friday afternoons typically. If we finish a project by Friday, which is our goal, we like Friday afternoons for the Google 20% time, right? That's when we really get a whiteboard together and we think about all the stuff that we're not doing that we could be doing, and we've got a growth chart that's where we manage the stuff that we want to do, right? So we go through that and we say, okay, in the next, over the weekend and this afternoon, can we knock out, minimum viable product, X for this and use it ourselves first and then decide whether or not to fold it in. So we keep things fresh but yeah, we've got a couple big projects for the week.
Yeah, that's cool. I think version 2 of SellHack is gonna be pretty awesome. I've used the LinkedIn recruiter tools before, and they have like it maxes out at like 50 or something.
Right.
And then you can't even email them because you have to use the InMail and LinkedIn. So you're using up your credits. You're paying a fortune for it, and you can't even save that many people. It feels pretty broken every time I use it. So the idea of being able to build this prospect list right in SellHack, it seems like that is the result of customer development. Because as you say it, I'm like, yep, that's the absolute need right there.
Right.
That's cool. Well, what's the best advice you have just for any startup that's trying to grow right now?
I think you have to get 3 things right to be successful, and I'll qualify that statement by saying I'm influenced by software as a service, and B2B. That's the world I live in, and that's what I love.
It's a good world.
Um, I think first you've got to be working on something that other people want or need, right? If we all worked on stuff that we loved, how many more photo sharing apps would we have, or how many more? What you can't always do that, but you have to find something that you do have some sort of passion for, which is really important, and your product has to solve a problem for someone. That's number one. Second is you got to get organized, right? I think what I've personally been focused on, and I'll be coming out with this later in the year, is I've put together and constantly optimizing a growth template, right? And a sales template and a content template. There's so much information out there, and I had so many bookmarks and things like that of like, oh, try this or get smarter about that. There was nowhere to manage all of that, and talking everything from tracking tools that could help. Any email that I open that I track the subject line, and because it's like if I'm opening it, and they got my attention. So it's having a reference
file. Yeah.
Exactly, to go back to, and then that evolves into tracking metrics and that. But getting organized is number two, right? And I think it's a really it's something that I've neglected a lot in the past, and I'm committed to staying committed to a more defined structure going forward, which is my third point. You've got to be consistent. Be consistent and be committed to whatever plan that you've put together. From your template, which helps to grow whatever product you're working on that doesn't suck, right? That's my advice for folks working on stuff. If you want to distill it down to a common denominator.
Yeah, no, that's great advice right there. And I'll even add this too. People can go and they can use SellHack and they can get a ton of value out of it. You actually have a gig posted on growthgeeks.com, which is a site you mentioned earlier, and you actually have a gig on there where they can go and you'll actually do the legwork for them, so they can kind of tell you who's in their target demographic, and you can just deliver the emails to them every month. So if somebody's watching this, they're sold that email's the way to go, and that this is the right direction for them. They're in B2B, they want to kind of follow up on all this advice you gave. I would recommend go to Growth Geeks, look on there. You'll see Ryan's gig on there. It should be one of the featured gigs, and you can just basically buy his services directly, and you'll go and do a lot of the lifting for them and just deliver them a great email list. And so I would just recommend people try that as well.
Yeah, thanks for the plug, Bronson. Appreciate it. Growth Geeks is one of those places we're looking at as a channel for growth to us. A lot of our customers emails are not a new thing, but cold emails and doing them really well, especially in a B2B context, is evolving into more of a replicable model. And I think that so many of us, and the analogy with my car, if my car breaks down, while I am kind of a gearhead and will get under the hood and try to fix it, it's going to the shop, right? If I have a tooth that hurts, I go to the dentist. And that's really because I can't scale everywhere, right? So I go to professionals, and if you're working on a business and don't have time to get really smart on emails, in terms of, either writing them or how to send them or the strategy or building a list or getting contact info, that's stuff that we live and breathe. We're happy to help some folks out. And that's, I was amazed at how many people just, are intimidated by cold email and cold email for business development. You're really putting yourself on Front Street. But there are certain processes and best practices you could follow that, at the end of the day is going to help salespeople crush quotas.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for coming on Growth Hacker TV and just giving us a great interview about a great tool and some of the processes that you personally use. So thanks for coming on.
My pleasure, man. Keep up the good work.
Absolutely.
All right. Cheers.